I just didn't see myself like doing kind of the traditional 4-year degree and going into, some field that I really couldn't wrap my head around. I was getting real life practical knowledge, hands-on.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, let's just make a bet on this.
Hey there, and welcome to Above and Beyond, the podcast where excellence meets elevation. I'm your host, Jan Simon, and I'm here to bring you real, unfiltered conversations with the people who are pushing boundaries and building something bigger than themselves. Digging in on mindset, mission, and the moments that shape these high performers and purpose-driven leaders. Whether you're chasing your next level or just getting started, you're in the right place. This is more than a podcast. It's a mindset, and we're taking it above and beyond. Welcome back to Above and Beyond, where excellence meets elevation, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of business leaders, community builders, and visionaries who are pushing boundaries and creating lasting impact. From warehouse floors to executive boardrooms, today's guest is a powerhouse of perseverance, purpose, and people-first leadership. A devoted husband and proud father of 4, his journey is rooted in humility and defined by hard-earned success. He began his career as a warehouse and storefront door technician, working his way up the ladder through sheer grit, relentless work ethic, and a no-compromise commitment to excellence. After 2 years in community college, he came to a bold realization: he was an earner more than a learner. Choosing hands-on experience over a traditional degree, he carved a path fueled by real-world growth and on-the-job mastery. That decision became the bedrock of a career that would see him rise to senior executive roles, including Director of Service, Sales, and Marketing, VP of Service, Regional VP, and ultimately CEO of private equity-backed companies. Today, he owns Best Option Restoration, where he leverages his deep operational expertise to make a lasting impact in the restoration industry. He also serves as an operational advisor on a private equity board of directors and actively contributes to the franchise council at Best Option Restoration. But leadership doesn't stop at the office door. He has spent 18 years coaching youth football and serving in both youth and adult sports ministries through his church. Whether in business or in life, he lives by 3 unshakable principles: integrity, effort, and pursuit. Join us as we share the real story behind his rise and the values that drive him today, and the lessons that can elevate anyone striving to go above and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Bob Flecken.
Great to be here.
All right, well, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Okay, let's go to early childhood. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a few places.
Okay.
So I'm originally from a small town called Lovington, New Mexico, which is in the southeast part of New Mexico. My grandfather owned some farmland. Many of my days back then were riding around on hay cubers and watching cowboys do cowboy things as a young guy. Then my parents, when they split up, I traveled around a little bit to spend some time in Texas, and then ultimately ended up in Albuquerque when I was, still in elementary school.
Okay.
And then from there, was in Albuquerque till I was in high school. Albuquerque's a cool town. There's just not a lot to do for a kid. And then
hard to spell too.
It sure is. Yeah. And then Dad got a job in Huntington Beach, California.
Okay.
So my junior year of high school, I moved out to Huntington Beach, California. And at that age, moving to Huntington Beach, California, it was definitely an upgrade. And I was there and graduated high school there and did the community college thing there. There used to be a furniture company called Levitt's Furniture. I don't know if you remember it or not.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I was there for a few years, and I just found my groove working, right? And so stayed there for a few years, and then I was actually bartending, and a guy named Keith was one of my really good customers. He ran a door company.
Okay.
And it was like a multi-location door company.
Like house doors and stuff like that?
It was all commercial and industrial warehouse doors, storefront doors, like the doors you walked in when you came into your office here, any kind of door, really anything. We did hanger doors, all kinds of doors. And it was a very service-focused business. And I don't know what he saw, but that was probably like one of those moments, because you need to have some luck in your life, right? Yeah. And I just got to latch on to a company that he hired me as a helper, I think back in 1996. And this company just really had their stuff together. They knew how to take care of their employees. They knew how to take care of their customers. I just bought in. I just was all in. So having come from a quasi-leadership role before in my warehouse furniture gig, I had a vision for my own career, and that was to move up. I was like, fixing doors was great, but what I really was caught up in that company was the culture, and obviously you can make more money. And I was at that point in my time starting to settle down, getting ready to get married. And so they opened up an office in Seattle, and never saw myself living in Seattle, but Keith was going to run it, the same guy that had brought me on. So I threw my name in the hat and moved up to Seattle, and that's where I started my family. And I was up there for about just under 4 years. My daughter, who's now 26, was born there.
Okay.
Obviously, I learned a lot about the business side of it, but it was also just a beautiful place to live. Still a lot of friends that I have today that live up there. And then the weather just started to wear on me a little bit. I needed the sunshine. Yeah. So from there, the business was just growing. It was just opening up greenfield offices in markets. So like they'd open up in Salt Lake City and Vegas, and then I'd heard that they were going to come to Phoenix. Well, Phoenix is right in between Albuquerque and
California.
Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
My wife's family's from Huntington Beach. My family's from Albuquerque. So I was like, why not? So I threw my name in the hat. Again, very fortunate to have been selected. Had some amazing mentors there. And I was there till about 2010. And honestly, I don't know that I would have ever left. There was a tragic thing. The owner of that company was like all of our mentors, and he was just an amazing guy. And it was a very fraternal environment, right? Everybody just really had each other and really helped.
This is the door company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so anyway, in 2008 or 9, I started to get a little bit antsy, and the business was running well. We grew it. It was a wild success story. We as far as I don't know, there was 25 or 26 locations, and we were near the top all the time. And I had an amazing team that was built there, so it just ran. It was a great company. And so I got an opportunity that just came out of the blue to go to a competitor, which was obviously a very difficult decision. Sat on it for about a year, kept going back and forth with that owner. He wanted to grow his business, and he had ultimately had a goal of selling his business. And so I just said, I'm 35 years old, and this company is great. When the owner passed away, it stopped growing a little bit. So I was getting a little antsy, and I wanted to see what else I could do. So, and I think it was really that move, as much as I was comfortable and everything was going well at the company that I come up with. And obviously I'm a loyal guy. Like I don't just jump ship, but it was that move that probably taught me the most in my career. And really the thing it taught me was like how people need to be treated. I think I was very results driven when I was with the first company. And it was, again, my team was incredible. And we as a group, we performed well, but that became the highlighter, like the spotlight of what we were doing, rather than maybe going into an environment that didn't have all of those things in place and have all those SOPs in place and understood all those things, and then having to do like the change management culture. You have an objective and you have a goal, and I had to learn how to facilitate that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that was great. That company sold in a couple of years to a private equity group, and it was there where I really started cutting my teeth on that level. It was intimidating. You're in a boardroom now with Harvard-educated guys, and here you are, this country boy from Lovington, New Mexico, and like it was also just wonderful to kind of learn all of the things that came along with being able to be in that environment. In every step of your career, you have mentors, people that just wrap their arms around you and they say, hey, look, I got you. And I definitely had that in every step of my career. And so I was with that company till, I don't know, so that was 2010 when I joined that group, and then 2017 I joined. We had sold the business to another private equity group, and it was fine. Everything was going well. The company was thriving, and again, I wasn't really looking, and a recruiter reached out and said that they had an opportunity in back in Huntington Beach, California. Yeah.
And the wife's, let's go.
Well, not exactly.
No? Oh.
She loves Arizona. But then you do romanticize the being what California was like in your 20s versus what it's like to raise kids there.
Actually live there and, be responsible there.
And so we went back to California, and I took a CEO gig for a company that did gates and access controls for the rich and famous, like in Beverly Hills and all that kind of stuff. And that was a whole nother side of the world that you see whenever you cross over that, and drove into LA every day. And so did that for 5 years. And as soon as we sold that business, then it was like, I couldn't wait to get back to Arizona.
Gotcha.
So that's it. That's kind of, and then I'm sure we'll get into the other stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to rewind this thing way back. Southeast New Mexico. Please tell me you're not a Dallas Cowboys fan.
I am not.
Thank God.
But that's exactly how I became a Miami Dolphins fan.
No. Really?
Yes.
Dan Marino, was he the quarterback at that point?
That's it.
Okay.
And Dan Marino beat the Dallas Cowboys, and my whole family were these obnoxious Cowboy fans. So that's how that came together.
So now you're a Miami fan, and it's been a very dry spell.
It's been a dry
very long time.
I was born in May of 74. The last time they won the Super Bowl was in January of 74. So, yeah, it's been a long time.
Been a while. Okay, so Southeast New Mexico. Grew up around a bunch of cowboys.
Yep.
Now, were they more hay farmers, or were they like actual cattle ranchers?
No, it was more hay. It was more hay and agriculture and things of that nature, yeah.
Okay. Did you end up working on the farm, or were you...
I mean, I was so young, I rode around with them and while they worked on the farm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Were you in any sports or anything at that point in your life? Or
No, I think when we moved there, I may have been 6 or 7 years old when I left there. Yeah.
So you were like the guy in the suspenders on Footloose. What was his name? Oh, shoot. It'll come to me.
I don't know. My wife would know, but I'm not sure.
Well, I should know because I get made fun of. I love that movie. I can't think of his name. And I can totally hear his girlfriend saying it. But anyway, so you moved from there to the armpit of to Albuquerque, New Mexico.
You're not wrong.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. And you were there until your sophomore year of high school?
Junior year, yeah.
Junior year of
close
high school.
enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you play sports there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you
Football, basketball.
Okay.
A little bit of baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was that to keep you out of trouble, or was that more?
I think the parents put me in to give me like something to do. There's not a lot going on in Albuquerque, man.
A lot of trouble in Albuquerque.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to go to Albuquerque for a prior job that I had.
Oh yeah.
Albuquerque, Farmington. I'd go all over up there, and
seems to be the Southwest route.
Yeah. Albuquerque, a little airport. Fly in there. I'll tell you, I don't miss going there. I have a really good friend who's got a place in Albuquerque. They actually have some bed and breakfasts in the old, I don't know if they call it the Heritage.
The Old Town area?
Yeah, Old Town area. Yeah. He opened, I think last time I heard he had 4 of these historic houses that he turned into bed and breakfast, kind of all by themselves. And his wife was Miss Albuquerque, or Miss New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's crazy. Anyway, so good guy. Used to work with him. Really good guy. But anyways, okay, so you were in Albuquerque. You played some sports. Did you ever get in trouble in high school?
I did. The further I got into high school, I started to, I don't know if the word is rebel or just be bored or what it is, but I don't think I spent much time in school my junior year, which was a catalyst of, hey, maybe you should go to Huntington Beach with your dad.
Yeah. I'm tired of dealing with you. Go, please. Go.
And honestly, it was great because I got there and I became very independent. Straight A's my senior year.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Made up all the missed time and graduated
awesome.
on time. Yeah,
Did you play sports in Huntington Beach too, or?
I did, and I was so focused on getting
out of school.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
And then you went to a couple years of community college. Did you do that right out of school? Or?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think that was like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'll just go to college.
That's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I got to go to college now, right? Because that's what people do.
Yep. Yeah.
And I liked it. I learned a lot, but I wasn't. When I got the job, and I realized like, hey, if I work a few more hours, I can make a few more bucks. That just became more appealing to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just didn't see myself like doing kind of the traditional 4-year degree and going into some field that I really couldn't wrap my head around. I was getting real life practical knowledge, hands on.
Yeah.
And and I just said, hey, let's just make a bet on this.
So time growing up, Southeast New Mexico, Albuquerque, and then Huntington Beach, kind of high school, pre-high school. Anybody in there that sticks out in your mind that was really a mentor to you at that point that might have helped guide you or took you in the wrong direction?
Yeah, I think because of the moving around, and I think anybody that goes through something where your parents are no longer together can relate to what is your sense of belonging supposed to be. And so for that, I think there was just a social struggle that I had going through elementary school, going from one school one year to another school the next year, and that type of stuff. And I think it was when I got into high school, I had a good group of friends. They weren't the best decision makers, but they were my family that I tied myself into. And then when I got to California, I think that's when that really started. And it was, for example, it may have been a coach, like when I was in Albuquerque or whatever, that kind of saw something in you or whatever and helped you believe in yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then when I got to California, and I think maybe that's also what drew me into going to work, was that you're going there and somebody's teaching you something and you're open to learning it, and but I have no regrets, because that's all the things that like created the drive and the desire that I had.
Yeah.
It was a catalyst.
Yeah. What kind of car did you have in high school, or did you?
I had a 73 Volkswagen bus.
Nice.
Yeah.
You want to know a funny story? So I had a buddy, grew up down the street from me, and I think I was a freshman in high school, and he was a sophomore. He was a year older than me. I think that's when you get your driver's license, right?
Yep,
right around that time. Anyways, his brother had a 68 Volkswagen bus, or Volkswagen Beetle, that he had refurbished that was purple and had white interior. And I don't know why, but one day Tim, my buddy, I shouldn't even probably say his name, get myself in trouble.
You'll be editing
He'll probably never listen to this. He picks me up from school, or from football practice, in his brother's Bug, which he wasn't supposed to be driving. And we went for a joyride, and we ended up on a dirt road. And there's different versions of how this actually happened, but at some point we started fishtailing a little bit. And the fishtailing led to losing control of the car.
Oh, no.
And we hit a huge pine tree. And then the back of the car flipped up to the left towards the driver's side. And there were no seatbelts in the car. And we both flew out. I landed on top of him outside of the car.
Oh, wow.
And it's, oh, shit. Look back. The front of the car is just demolished. The back of the car is sitting up on this rock. We spent the next 4 hours trying to lift that car off the rock so we could drive it home. Stupid brains, right? Obviously, before cell phones or anything like that, nobody knew where we were because we weren't supposed to be going anywhere. Ended up walking 2 or 3 miles to the nearest farmhouse. Called, I think, his parents. I don't remember. Anyways.
Did you pull out the line that your dad's a TV repairman and you have an awesome set of...
We got in so much trouble.
I imagine.
And yeah, and I recall him trying to show me how to fishtail, and he recalls me grabbing the steering wheel and causing us to go. And I'm like, I don't think I grabbed the steering wheel. I don't think at that age I would have known to grab the steering wheel. Anyways, you just remind me of that when you said the Volkswagen bus.
Yeah, that's a great story, though.
Do you wish you still had that
Glad
bus?
you survived.
Yeah, well, me too. I could have been much worse. It's crazy because we both flew out the driver's side door and landed on, and not a scratch.
Wow.
Not a scratch.
That's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. It was just the car was moving at such a side swipe motion, whatever. Just launched just both.
The
up.
inertia just took you.
Well, we could have gone out the front window and been probably dead right there. So, anyways, crazy. Wish you still had the bus.
At times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Was it one of those, what is it, 23 windows or whatever?
No, it wasn't that cool.
No.
No, in fact, it was funny. We still joke about the fact that the sound system was worth more than the vehicle,
Probably
which
true.
was pretty true for the time that we grew up in. Yeah.
I was just talking to somebody on the course the other day. I remember who we were talking to. I think it was Andrew John. But we were talking about, do you remember the old 2200, 2000, B2000 Mazda pickups?
I do.
Did you guys have those where everybody lowered them, dropped them down,
Yep.
put the big old boom boxes in the back?
We're aging ourselves for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, no, I
It
do
was like
remember that.
so popular back in the day. But sometimes I think it'd be cool to have one of those just to be stupid.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Just the nostalgia of it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we had some good times on the bus. Lots of trips down to San Clemente and surfing and camping. And,
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
The bus was
Camping on the
fun.
beach.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So did you have hair back then?
Yeah, I did.
That's bad of me to ask.
No, I've got some. Totally fine. It's fair. Yeah.
Did you have long hair, a mullet?
I never did the long
No?
hair thing. No, I mean I had it down a little bit, like over the eyes or down to the shoulders type of
Yeah.
thing, but never the full-on long
hair.
Yeah, no.
Not the Keanu Reeves break.
Point Break.
Point Break. There you go. Point Break. Mixing things up. Anyways, okay. So, college. You were in college for 2 years. Didn't know what you wanted to do.
Yep.
And then got into business, or not, I shouldn't say got into business. Started working for a guy that... Tell me about odds and end jobs up to that point.
Not really. No, I got the job out of high school and I was there for, I don't know, a good 3 years. I think I started in the door industry when I was 21. And you're talking about mentors, and I think that's like really where I was mentored, where
Okay.
somebody was, they see something or whatever, they like it was, for me, it was always work ethic, always being willing to pick up the tools. We were on call 24/7, so somebody needed somebody to fill in for the on-call. I didn't really know anything about doors, so the only way I could really differentiate myself was by busting my ass
Yeah.
and getting out there. And so, and we had that culture amongst the team there, and so I think that was it. Just like any opportunity that you could to help somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like just having a helpful posture in the way that you carry yourself. If somebody needs something, you're there for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was mostly Southern California, Seattle, and then you moved down here doing that.
Yep.
So I didn't realize you live in Seattle, so I'm from Washington originally.
I think we talked about that
Yeah.
once, maybe.
So maybe. And I lived. Where did you live in
We
Seattle?
were in Maple Valley.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So used to be. When did you live there?
So I think it was like 97. I moved out here in November. No, 2001. Yeah, I think November 2001 is when I
So
moved
we were
out.
about the same time. I was in the Seattle area in 96, 97, 98. So did you ever go to the Red Hook Brewery out there when it was open?
Do you think we did go there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's closed now. Really bummed. But I think they sold to Anheuser or something. I don't know. I think there's still a Red Hook. I think you can still get Red Hook. I'm not sure. We don't have it down here, but one of those Northwest things.
So that's the brewery that was in Seattle proper, right?
It was actually, no, it was out in Woodinville by
Okay.
Chateau Ste. Michel.
Yeah, I don't think I was there.
Okay.
What? I can't remember the name of the one that was downtown Seattle, but yeah. Anyway,
Oh, yeah. I had a buddy who lived up in Maple Valley. So, anyways,
where were you guys at?
so we were in Kirkland.
Okay.
In Juanita.
Yeah, really nice.
But yeah, I worked for Farmers Insurance in Kirkland, and so we lived there, and then transferred from there over to Central Washington, and then down here in '99. So
Yeah.
pretty quick little jump. But yeah, so my big thing when I go back to Seattle is I have to do a ferry ride,
Yeah.
like ferry ride, get some good clam chowder, and a ferry ride.
Yeah. There's something magical about looking at the skyline of Seattle from the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on a nice day,
Yeah. Seeing Rainier in the background.
it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. My favorite place, if you ever go back in Gig Harbor, which is down by Tacoma, there's a place, I believe it's still there. It's called Net Shed Number 9, and it's a little breakfast and lunch place.
Okay.
And sitting on their patio, which is over the water, it's the old dock that goes on the water. You can look right down, kind of like I don't know what you call it, V shape, and Mount Rainier sits right at the end of the water. It's like
that mountain
just
is
gorgeous.
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah. So one of my favorite places. And then there's a place up here called Wicked Rain. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a Seattle bar
Okay.
just up
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
straight here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess they serve Ivar's clam chowder and some different things like that. So Karen and I keep saying, we got to go up there for lunch. So one of these days we'll get there.
Count me in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right. So moved down here, 2001. Were you married at that point?
Yeah, so I'd be a fool not to talk about the real mentor, and that's my wife.
Your wife.
She was really the one that and still is the one that balances me out and has been just an amazing mom to our kids.
Nice.
And yeah. And so we had Carly there. We got married, moved to Seattle, had Carly there, got pregnant with Mattson, who's 24 now. And then he was actually born in California. I'd accepted the position down here in Phoenix. And so we had those two for the next 4 or 5 years. And then we had a change of heart. We're like, hey, let's have one more. And then we had Nate. And then a year later, we had Kyle. So they are aged apart. The two younger boys are 19 and 18 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so we just made a life here. We had a house out in Queen Creek, and we had a church that was nearby. And, we were just kind of living that kind of back then. Nobody was from Arizona. So everybody was just trying to get to know each other and build community and doing a lot of the same things that we're still doing now. But yeah, I guess getting back to Chris, she's just been like that staple. Like when you're young and you're trying to figure out your way, you need that to come home to that peace, to that homemaker, to the heart of the home. And she's always been that for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you have that.
Yeah.
Now, has she been a stay-at-home mom? Does she work outside the house? What does she do?
She's done some things from the home. She did some wellness consulting for quite a long time, and now she does some like graphic design for our church. But yeah, she's definitely given it all for her family for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This episode of Above and Beyond is brought to you by the amazing sponsors who help bring this show to life. A heartfelt thank you to Above Par Network, elevating connections and creating impact. Foundation Insurance Services, protecting what matters most with confidence and care. Meritum Credit Card Processing, empowering businesses through expert consulting and unwavering support. And Rocks and Calligraphy, bringing beauty and personal flair to every handwritten detail. We're proud to partner with these outstanding businesses who share our passion for excellence. For more about our sponsors and exclusive podcast content, visit abovebeyondpodcast.com.
Gotcha. Now, in your bio, I was reading you've been coaching, I'm assuming the boys.
Started with the boys.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have one daughter or two?
One.
One daughter and 3 boys.
Yep.
Okay. Or 3 sons. My 3 sons.
Yeah.
So, coaching, does your daughter play sports at all?
She played some soccer. She was actually a black belt in karate,
Nice.
Very coordinated, but it just wasn't her passion growing up. She did it for a while, and her and Mattson were at the front phase of the social media phase and stuff like that. And I would advise parents, like, wait as long as you can to give your kids a cell phone, which we did.
Sure, yeah.
They were just, she was just at that point in time, gave up the sports and like really focused in on school, and she had some aspirations in college. My daughter's probably the one that's like most like me. She's very driven and passionate. Now she's a mom, and she's killing it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Does she have a grandbaby?
I do. I have a grandson as of last July. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very cool. That's awesome. I will be a grandfather in August. All things go well.
You're going to love it.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I actually didn't know if it would ever happen, just because all the kids these days don't seem to be interested in having kids of their own. And I don't know what we did as a society to mess that up, but at least in our household, that's where it's at. So did you have a point at which, okay, so you went through, you're working at the furniture store. I gathered that, or not furniture, excuse me, the door store,
company.
the door company. I gathered that ended because the owner had passed.
And an opportunity came around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the two things came together. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good. And so was there a time in there where you started to have the conversation in your head of, I really don't want to work for anybody else. I think I want to do this myself. Where you started planting that seed in your head that you could do it yourself, don't really need anybody else.
Yeah, I don't think then. I don't know. I think that would have been I think at that point in time in my career, I had been with this company for almost 15 years, and this other opportunity came along, and I felt like that was my opportunity to have a real proving ground. I didn't have the mentors and friends and even the amazing team that I had here in Arizona anymore. I had to go and almost not start from scratch, because I had great teams over there as well, but they didn't know what I knew. And so I had to go in there and try to instill a culture. And first, I'll be honest, I did all the wrong things. Like I stepped into it and I was a little too forceful, or I was too mission focused. It was all the things that was bred in me from my other education, right? And so as I stepped into that, I had to like really take inventory on what is the goal here, right? Is the goal here to come here and like to beat them? No, that wasn't my goal. Those were my friends and they're still my friends. Was the goal to help people? And that's really what I came to the realization is once I figured out like my job is now to pay it forward and to teach and to mentor, because those guys aren't my other mentors. They're busy mentoring their people. And now I'm over here. And so, and what does that look like, right? What does being a mentor look like? And I think it's encouragement and understanding and focus. And it's not anymore like an extension of what you can do or even the team that's behind you now. You have a new team and you have a new family. And just like anything, like you're going into a new family, that's a hard thing to do, like to assimilate and into a new culture. And here I am, I'm the new guy.
Yeah.
I'm not and so that took time. That took probably 3 years of me when I went into that.
Was there something in that time period that caused that click? Because that's a pretty heavy shift. If you go from one culture that is more driven, numbers focused, if you're in sales, how many calls did you do today? How many deals did you close? What's next, right? That's sales. Go from that to the transition of now I'm in this for possibly relationships and more of a softer environment. Was there something that switched, that clicked in your head, that happened where somebody sat you down and went, look, dumbass?
That definitely happened.
Yeah.
And it was the owner.
Okay.
And he believed in what we were doing, and he believed in the goals of what we were trying to accomplish. But what he didn't agree with was how I was trying to get there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I had to humble myself, and it was a very good lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you listened.
I did.
And I think a lot of times, unfortunately, people put up that wall, right? When somebody comes at us with some criticism,
right,
whether it's constructive or unconstructive, that criticism can create walls, right? And it sounds like, I'm projecting a little bit, but it sounds like to your benefit, you were receptive to what he was saying, and you could have said, F you, I'm gone.
Right.
I know better.
Right.
I know how to drive this team. I just did 18 years or 15 years with this other company where we were heavily successful. We were expanding, we were growing, we were doing these great things, and now you're telling me I need to go be buddy. So that's impressive. I commend you for that, because I think you could have been locked into that one way and not been open to looking at the other way. So
yeah, I think a good culture in any company is one that where everybody checks their ego at the door and they focus on the important thing. And like in our world, the important thing is how do we care for clients and how do we take care of people. So if everybody can walk in and say, hey, and be selfless in that, you can accomplish amazing things.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, and I think that's huge, and especially bringing that forward. And I know, I don't know, can I say Brian's name on the air?
Sure.
Brian speaks the world of you, and he speaks the world of the organization. I think that was the thing that turned me on to meeting you in the first place, was just the way that he spoke of it. And obviously, being in restoration, and I'm in insurance, we have lives that similarly intertwine.
Sure. And
how we deal with that. You're dealing with the catastrophic side of it. I'm dealing with the, well, let's hope nothing happens, but let's protect in case it does. And to be in that world where there are so many companies that know how to play the game, call it. And unfortunately, I see it in a lot of different worlds, right? Because I think there was, I don't remember where it was, recently, I was writing something. I don't know if well, anyways, I digress. But there was this, it's what we do when people aren't watching.
100%.
That creates who we actually are and our legacy, right? And so to be able to say, yeah, I could throw another, and I'm going to project, right? But I'm going to throw another fan on the floor and charge you an extra $100 a day or whatever it is, because I can get that, because nobody's going to question it, right? Just going to write a check and walk off. And there's enough people in your side of the industry that will do that to take advantage of who's not watching, if you will.
That's right.
So anyways, so I know that you have in this business carried forward that culture of doing what's right, supporting your employees, trying to build an organization that supports we'll call it healthy growth.
That's right. Healthy growth, the community, each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So does your wife work in the business with you now?
She doesn't. Her passion is really just like she's focused right now on, for example, putting together a kids camp that's going to have hundreds of elementary school kids. And
Nice.
yeah. So that's been the blessing, I think, of the career, is that it's afforded us the opportunity to do the things that we're passionate about and then come back in the middle and talk about it. I know there's couples that work together and build businesses together. We just never really had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a blessing in disguise.
It is, for sure. Yeah.
So at what point then did you start looking at, well, actually step back,
Okay.
because you were involved in some investment stuff. Okay. So talk to me about that. What
Sure.
is that? What do you do there? Are you still involved?
Yeah, I guess you have these companies that are basically representing partners that make investments that entrust them with stewarding their investments, and it's been a tremendous opportunity to really understand like that side of the world. I don't think I would have ever learned anything about it had I not just dove into it. So
Did somebody introduce you to that, or did you have a friend that kind
it
of
just
wanted-
it happened when I left the first company and went to the second company, and his goal was to sell the company. He did that in a couple of years successfully, and then from there was where I started cutting my teeth in that space. And so I wasn't early on, obviously, I wasn't the guy that was going into the boardroom and explaining how the business was doing or any of those types of things, but I was part of the senior management team that was out making things happen along with the team. So, and then you just organically through that process over the next 5 or 6 years, you just understand, okay, here's your deliverables, and how are we going to get things done? And then you step into the CEO role, and now you're not only in the boardroom, you're one of the board members, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and it's really just making sure that they come into these things with a thesis of, hey, if we do this and this, we should be able to grow the business to that.
Yeah.
And if you get it done, it's a great day. If you don't get it done, it's not a great day. I was luckily fortunate enough to be on some teams that got it done. So I do think it's a grind, especially when I got into the C-level position, because it's just a lot of hours. It's a lot of time that you're putting into, cause a lot of things that's when you were saying like what happens when nobody's looking, you're spending late nights in the office. There was nights I wasn't getting home till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Wow. And that's because you're still doing your day job. And then on top of that, you're also answering to a board. So yeah, I'm glad I did it and I learned a ton from it, but I think I got to a point where I wanted to, this is the point where you asked me earlier, at what point did you say, hey, you want to go out and do your own thing? And it was towards the tail end of the last investment that I was a part of when I was on the management team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so you get to that point. Did you have any ideas then what you thought, hey, this would be interesting? Because obviously restoration is a pretty niche world, but there's a ton of money to be made, at least as far as I think. I don't know. Outside perspective. Was there something that led you down to that path? Were you just looking at franchises and you're like, oh, let's land on this one?
Yeah, so when I made the decision that I was coming back to Arizona, it was going to be, didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to go out and just try to find a job or if I was going to decide to own a business. And I thought more leaning towards owning a business. And then obviously I looked at buying some companies that were in my wheelhouse of things and experiences that I'd had in the past. And then I just realized, what else can I do? So then I started looking around, and I mean, there's biz, buy, sell, and there's different brokers that are out there that'll show you a dozen different types of things. One thing I was comfortable with was I wanted something that needed rapid response, because that's the world that I came from, that was mission critical and that was recession proof, right? Those were my three like business type of criteria. And then from there, it was getting this opportunity to really spend time with my kids.
Yeah.
So, because I gave a lot of that up. I was always at the football games and always at the recitals and those types of things, but I wanted an opportunity to like maybe help them launch something, right? So my daughter was recently married. I saw something very special in my son-in-law. Obviously, I loved him enough for the daughter part of it, like him marrying my daughter, and he's just an amazing guy. But I also saw like a talent. And so I started talking to him about it and said, hey, what if we started a business? We didn't really know what we were going to start. And then the other thing is community. So with us being a faith-based family, like how do we pay it back to our community. And so the restoration industry seemed like a natural fit. I don't know that I knew all those things, and those things didn't all come together at once. They came together at different times. But then I met the franchisor for Best Option Restoration, and he's a great guy. And it's a fairly young franchise. It started in 2016.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he really started branching off like in 2018, 2019. So he did his proof of concept and then started building the franchise out. And he'd built a franchise before, so he had a good track record on that front. But more importantly, I just really liked what he said about how we are here to serve people. I saw him and how he was mentoring some guys and how they were. And so I did my diligence and checked around and saw what the other franchises were, and specifically in restoration. And it was a fit for my skill set. And like I said, the being able to understand how you got to be out there right away. You got to answer the phone 24/7. It's what I've been doing my whole career. So, I have a passion for that. But on top of that, it was an opportunity to spend time with my kids and maybe pay some things forward to them. And then on top of that, it was a way for us to service our community.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and you've had that 4 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And what's your vision? What do you want to do? What's your plan as you move forward with this?
Yeah, I think we want to grow it to maybe 3 to 4 locations, maybe own it for as long as 10 years, hopefully be able to teach the kids that want to be a part of the business how to run a business, how to run a service business. They may or may not want to, if we did decide to at some point exit, they may or may not want to stick around because that's what they built.
Yeah.
They did it with their elbow grease, or they may want to go do their own thing at that point. So I think for me, it was what's the next 10 years of my life look like? And this is what I landed on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So talk to me about your services at Best Option Restoration.
Sure.
What do you guys do?
We do the typical, if you have a flood in your house, we're going to be Johnny on the spot there within an hour. If you think you have some mold, we're going to come out and do a free inspection and tell you like, yes, we think you do, or maybe you need a third party to come in and do some air quality testing because we're not seeing it. Fire restoration. Sometimes if people's houses burn, but like they're not a total loss, we'll get in there and get them back to that point where they can move back in. We most recently, over the past several months, all of our entire team became asbestos certified, so we're also doing asbestos abatement.
Oh, wow.
And then we do some peripheral things like we do duct cleaning. That really goes hand in hand with anything that's like microbial growth driven, and then some odor removal things of that nature. So, yeah, that's our list of services today. I do want within the next year to be able to start doing some of the rebuild stuff and things like that. But
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
I'm going to start trying to pull that in to do some of that.
But that's a big hurdle.
Yeah.
And you got to do it a certain way. And so one thing I don't want is to disrupt the things that we're doing, and like for us to stay in our lane for the things that we've built our reputation on.
Yeah.
And then this will be a division of, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Relatively new business.
Yep.
Obviously, you've got a lot of experience behind you. Has there been a point along the journey, and we could say in the last 2 years, we could say up until the last 2 years and into the last 2 years, has there been a point in that journey where you just threw up your hands and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, or you felt like the world was going to crash in on you, and you had to pick things up and say, okay, let's reassess. What are we doing? Where are we going? Sounds like you have a really strong support system at home, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
I think as a guy, I think sometimes all we want is reassurance that what we're doing is okay, right? And I don't know if that's my love language. I don't know if that's that or if that's just my way of thinking, but I feel like sometimes
Affirmation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. We look at things and we say, okay, I'm going to do this. And ultimately, everything that we're doing is to try to make sure that our family, our spouse, our kids, whatever that is the most well taken care of that we can actually provide for. And I think, at least for me, right? So to have somebody in support of you that's there 24/7 over the last number of years that sounds like has said, okay, I'm going to go along with you on this journey, and I'm going to be here to support you when you come home after these long days. Have there ever been days, and not give up on her, I'm not saying that, but where you're like standing there and you're just like, God, I don't know what more I can give. I'm just done.
That's a great question. It's definitely thought-provoking. I think if I was to talk to my 22-year-old self, I would tell myself, it's not all about what you can provide. Take a moment to slow down, see what's in front of you.
Yep.
Right? Enjoy it, celebrate it. I think like you said, my family is a great support system, and I know that they make it very clear, like they've got my back and they're proud of all of. But at the end of the day, that's just stuff. It's not. I'm 50 now, and definitely on the back nine of being a parent. So with the time that you have with your family, I think there's nothing more valuable than that, right? So I think there's been times where I'm like, feel like I'm missing out on some of that stuff, but those are the choices that I made, because being a provider is what I put at the forefront of what I was there to do. And that's a tough thing for a guy. Like, I think guys are put in that spot they are the breadwinner or whatever, not always, and not every marriage, but in my marriage. But at the same time, I don't think your wife or your kids are asking too much to be like, hey,
You throw the ball with me.
that type of stuff.
Yeah.
100%.
You know what's crazy is what's interesting to me about these podcasts is they provoke thoughts in me. So it's like a self-serving thing, but a little bit comes out each time. So probably if you all listen, and I'm saying you all because whoever's out there listening, if you listen to all these, you'll know more about me. But I grew up, and I think I would consider us as being poor. I would consider us as not having money. And my mom made our clothes and all this stuff. And Christmas, sometimes there wasn't Christmas, sometimes there was. Sometimes it was my dad would make stuff out of wood. Sometimes my mom would make clothes or dolls or whatever it was, right? And there wasn't really a lot of stuff. And I can remember getting out of school and my whole focus in my life was, I'm going to be able to give my kids more than my parents ever gave to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
The stuff. And then TJ and I were talking, and I went through a bankruptcy and a foreclosure and a divorce and everything else in 2007, 8, 9. And I can tell you the thing that brought to the forefront of my head of anything. And I'm a workaholic. Unfortunately, that's who I am. And I recognize that, and sometimes I try to shut it off, and other times I fill my space. But I can tell you, my parents, although they didn't give me a lot of stuff, gave me a very solid foundation and a very solid home. And you talk about a split family. My parents never did. And if my parents ever listen to this, I can remember as a child sometimes wishing they would, because I just didn't get it, right? And they didn't fight, they didn't hit. I don't remember my dad ever hitting my mom or anything like that. It was just this feeling of they'd be happier not together, which is a weird, profound thing from a kid. But
Sure.
But it's interesting because I think about now looking back and the time that I lost with my kids after the divorce, and they moved and I stayed here, and now they're back here, but now my relationship isn't what I feel like it could have been or was. And I think about my relationship with my daughter beforehand, and I just feel like, I don't know where I'm going with this. Like literally,
You're saying the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like there's this piece in the family unit that needs to be the stronger person.
Yep.
And I feel like that is usually the mom, the wife, the person, the home person. And I'm not saying they stay at home, whatever. I'm just saying, I think about my relationship now, and she does that. She sacrifices, and I recognize it, and I see it, and I notice it, and I want to try to help her and be there and do all those things, right?
Yeah, that's great.
But it is interesting. Anyways.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, man.
down a
I can
weird
relate
hole.
but I can relate to what you said about not growing up with a lot. I can definitely relate to the fact that I know both of my parents love me very much and always supported me the best that they could. And I do think that somehow, as you're being shaped as a kid, you get to this point where you're like, okay, because think about it. Think about when you were 18. Think about when you were 19, 20 years old. What the hell am I going to do with my life, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you take a step and you go and you put one foot in front of the other, right? And then, hey, that worked. And then, okay, then that worked. And then that worked. And then you start getting pats on the back from the boss, or you start getting, and then it just goes from there. So, no, I get it. And I think we both we can both relate to a lot of the same things.
For sure. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Could be a little bit vulnerable, but feel free to shut me down. I feel like your faith is extremely important in your journey obviously in your relationship. Do you care to talk about that at all and how that impacts maybe the decisions that you make?
Yeah. Well, I can say that as a kid, I grew up in a house that believed in God, believed in Jesus, but I don't know that we were in church every Sunday or anything like that. And then fast forward to, I definitely did not live a very Christian life, like in high school and then in my early 20s and those types of things. And then got married. And I think we just found this foundation and built around this foundation. At least for me, I remember literally having this conversation with myself and saying, this is a good, solid place. And from a guy that doesn't maybe really know how to raise a family, this is a good, solid place where I can have a life of support or have a lot of support. So maybe it was a selfish ambition. And then from there, it's like you just build this walk and this journey with Jesus. And look, man, it has ups and downs just like anything, right? Yeah. And so I see my kids and I see them now doing all of those things and I'm like, hey, it worked. Yeah. Because at first I think I was more strategic than it just being vulnerable. Yeah. It wasn't like I'm gonna do this because I think it's the right thing to do and I think it's a good foundation. And yeah, I had this in my life before, but it wasn't something that I was all in on, right? And then but I became all in like over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even today, please know, I don't try to live a perfect life. I'm probably not the guy that you would look to and be like, hey, do everything that guy does it. But what I'm saying is you have this relationship with something that's bigger than you and something that can ground you and something that you can rely on.
Yeah.
And there's been times, Jan, where my wife she's had some health issues and there's been times that were close calls. And if it wasn't for our community, man, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
So just having that community that can throw your arms around you. I see, and as crazy it is to say this, I see similarities within the APN network. I see like people that just rally around each other and support each other and help each other. And I think that in life, whenever you have that around you, I don't know, it's just a blessing that I don't think that there's maybe other people that don't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely relate. And it's interesting to share my side of that, if you will. But we don't go to church at all, really. For a while, we were, what do they call them when you go to Easter and Christmas?
Yeah. You hit the two holidays.
But I grew up in a very strong Christian family, and my parents are very strong. My sister's a pastor of some sort, minister. Okay. She just became ordained, I think. I'm not sure. But anyways, I have my relationship with Jesus and God, and I talk to him daily and that sort of thing. But the thing that I think, I don't even know how to say this because I don't want to say I'm allowed to be imperfect because of the perfectness of God, but I know that it can allow me to stumble.
100%. Right?
And for me, knowing that there's a higher power there that's there to help me is huge. But I appreciate that. I appreciate you answering and being vulnerable in that because I feel like it's become a taboo in some circles. And I feel maybe that's something that's missing in society to some level. I don't talk about it much at all. But anyways, yeah. So, all right. So going back to Best Option Restoration.
Okay.
You're looking at growing possibly multiple locations over the next few years, 10 years. Your son-in-law's working for you?
Yeah.
Are any of your actual kids working for you?
We've got Mattson in the business. He's my oldest son.
Okay.
And then my youngest son is also looking to join the team. He's very interested in it. So
okay. And
then we also have a couple guys that are from the church where we go. And then I've got another guy that we actually have 2 franchise locations. So we have the Scottsdale and then we have Mesa Chandler.
Oh, okay.
We have one brick and mortar that services all that. So we had bought one of the franchises that was here before.
Okay.
And their tech came with it. He's an amazing guy. And then Brian, who obviously brings a lot of expertise and personality to the team. And we also have...
personality is a good way to put it.
And then we have Shayna, who came from roofing. So, yeah, we're building a good team. And I think that's the key to everything, right? If you're going to build a business, you're only going to be as good as your team. We get probably too much credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you got to build in at least one trip to Cabo every year for Brian. Just throw that in there. In his package. The vacation calendar is stacked. I'm sure. So, but well, cool. Well, okay. So I'm moving into a new. This isn't new. This year, this is a section of our podcast.
Okay.
That we call the pressure point.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna have you choose 3 numbers, and I'm gonna ask you rapid fire questions, and you got to just give me answers that come to your head.
Oh boy.
So, give me 3 numbers, 1 through 20.
All right. Let's go 7.
Okay.
Let's go 10.
Okay.
And let's go 19.
All right. In no particular order. Here we go. First question. If your younger self saw you now, what would surprise them most?
What would surprise them most? I think, that's not really the answer. The answer I want to say is not really the question. So,
Would your younger self be proud of who you are today?
okay. Yeah, I think so. I think you would. I think what would surprise them is probably the family aspect of what we've built and just how great my kids are and how close we all are. But also like in the career, I think would be, I think there was a vision then, but I think seeing some of that stuff happen and also with there being more to do, I think you'd say, what have you been eating, dude?
Slow it down. Slow it down. That's funny. You made me think of something that just left my head. But... All right. Next question. What's the most impactful book or quote that shaped your path? Are you a reader?
Yeah, it's somewhat. I've read books. Read
couple.
read several books. I'm more of an audiobook kind of guy. Going back to that, like when I left, there's a book called Turn the Ship Around. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's about a Navy captain that took the worst submarine in the fleet and was able to turn it into the best. And I think that was impactful at a time in my career where I was looking for answers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to look that one up. I've not heard of that book, so I will have to go check that one out. Okay, you've got 60 seconds to inspire the room. What's your message?
I would say, so like in my old school, new school way, I would just be like, and in my coaching way, right? I'm a coach. And so like the number one thing you can bring to the table is effort whenever you're talking about your career. Like that effort, as Ray Lewis says, effort's between you and you, right? I'd also say self-belief is so important. There's going to be so many times where, there's going to be people that maybe are doubting what you're trying to do, and you've got to just stand up and you've got to like put one foot in front of the other. And in those tough moments, you've got to just give it everything that you got, no matter what.
Yeah.
And take some time to smell the roses, right? Take some time to look around and enjoy where you're at and be proud of where you're at, rather than just always like looking at what you're going to be in 5 years and 10 years and all that, because right now it really matters.
I love that. I will tell you I love that because I know I don't do it enough. I'm always, what do I have to get done today? I got all this stuff I got to get done. Yeah. Check stuff off the list. I got to take care of these things. I got to blah, 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 whatever it is. Fill in the space with stuff.
Yeah.
Whether that's, I don't even know why that is, right? But sometimes the thought of going on vacation or just taking a weekend to go to the mountains, it's like, when could I fit that in? Because I got all this stuff I need to take care of.
Yeah.
Right?
If that's something that you feel like you should do, then you should do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, I've really appreciated you coming in and spending time with us and talking to me about your life and
thanks.
Some of your adventures.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We dove deep for sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did, and it's always awesome to hang out with you.
Awesome. Well, I have one more thing for you.
Okay.
Everybody that comes on the show gets a little gift. It is customized by Roxink Calligraphy, so you can go ahead and open that.
Roxink.
Yep.
It has my name on it.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So you get your own glass, got your name, got the date or the year that you were here.
Yeah.
Not the actual date, but the year. And I really appreciate you coming on and spending time with me, and it's been fun getting to know you a bit better.
Yeah. So, thanks, Jan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a
Love
problem.
being here. This is Bob Flecken, and I went above and beyond.
Lunch mobs buzzing, ideas in the air. Golf outings where stories we share. Beyond the fairways, friendships grow. In APN's embrace, opportunities flow. No happy talking, just real deals. Authentic connections, the kind that heals. From Palm Springs to Pine Top's Grace, APN's network spans every place. Above Par Network, we're going above and beyond. Reaching new heights. work, we truly thrive.